So I'm smiling so much because I know a lot of you guys are thinking this is clickbait. This is really happening. The title of this video, Speccing a Real Valkyrie, is really happening. I felt the need to preface this video with a bit of context because it does sound absolutely ridiculous, but when I walk through those doors in a minute, I'm going to be speccing a real Aston Martin Valkyrie. It's really going to get built and it's really going to turn up and we're really going to drive it, and I'm really taking you guys along for the complete journey. Now you're probably thinking, what's going on? How are you doing this? It's not my car, obviously, but if you followed the journey a couple of weeks ago of filming the collection of a friend's Aston Martin Vanquish Zagato collection, it was at that point that they, for whatever reason, asked me to spec their Valkyrie for them. Now at the time I was like, there's no way I can do this for you guys. I'm absolutely honoured that you should ask me, but I truly believe that this is going to be the equivalent of the McLaren F1 of our generation. It's such an incredible car. So lo and behold, the offer still stands. We teamed up officially with Aston Martin to share this with you. And when I walk through those doors in a minute, we're going to run you through actually building a real Aston Martin Valkyrie. Let's hit it. Welcome to the inner sanctum of probably the most special room in the automotive industry right now, as far as I'm concerned. It really is an honour to be here. I've just prefaced this video with how special this moment is for me, certainly. Here with Marek Reichman, Chief Creative Officer at Aston Martin, and you're going to be taking me through this wonderful process of speccing a real Valkyrie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just those words coming out of my mouth, mate.
It's a lot of fun as well, that's the other thing. So it is exceptional. We're about 2 years into the program. Obviously the hard model sitting behind you that you've seen before. I know you've sat in it, but this is about 95% of the actual car. But all of the VR work and all of the screen work that you're going to look at is basically 100% of the car, so we can spec everything.
Great.
As I said, we're 2 years in. We're just bolting the first engines now into the first tubs. Unfortunately, that car gets crashed because that's one of our crash cars. But that's the process as we go through to final build, obviously.
So how does it start? When a client comes in this room, what's the typical journey? I assume with you doing such a limited amount of these cars, it's a very personal one-on-one experience.
Yeah, it is. It's very personal. And don't forget, again, 90% of those customers have come along the journey with us. So on that 2 year period, they've been there, they've been part of the process, they've seen all the presentations, they always get information before the public, the press gets information, so they've been kept up to speed. Their minds are changing and thinking and dreaming and looking at and seeing other hypercars and seeing their collections and dreaming about how is this car going to fit within my collection, or does it need to be differently? They've understood the car, and we keep feeding them more and more information about materials, what they're able to change, how they're able to set the car up, what the interior is going to feel like, the screen technologies, the exterior panels, the carbon twills, etc., etc.
You give me anxiety, man.
There's a lot to do.
As a spot of context, when I'm speccing my own car, I'm sure you're the same. You're thinking about it for months. You know, it's a massive, it's a big deal. I found out about this opportunity 2 weeks ago, and it'll be one of the most significant cars ever. And one of the owners is very kindly like, do you want to do that? Right. So you're really going to have to hold my hand here because I don't want to get this wrong.
Yeah, no,
it's so absurd.
The colour obviously is a big part of it. But,
yes.
You know, whether it's gloss, satin, gradiated, because you can have a gradiated paint.
Don't say any more, man. You're giving me heart palpitations here. It's a massive responsibility.
The materials, the touch and feel, Makuna carbons, etc. Even gold leaf, titanium, you name it, we'll talk about it through the process.
What's really unique about the spec process of a Valkyrie is that you get to meet the people who literally create these things. Part of that is Libby May, and she's going to take us through some of the sort of templates that you guys have created to help highlight what's possible?
Absolutely. So this is one of the examples, and the reason why we do designer specs is to spark creativity, get the kind of creative ideas and juices flowing. And this one's particularly beautiful. It's in iridescent emerald with beautiful detailing of gold leaf pinstriping around the car. That's done by a craftsman.
This is real gold.
This is real gold under the lacquer. And you can see the little details done by the craftsman.
If you focus in, you can actually see the texture on the gold.
You have the Makume.
My mind's losing it. I'm like, I don't know where to begin.
On the interior, you have the Makume carbon, so that's layers of thin ply carbon stacked on top of each other at 45 degrees and then machined back from a solid billet to create this beautiful kind of wood grain damask steel sort of effect.
So if you think about a beautiful Japanese samurai sword that has all those folds, that's done with metal that's forged.
Yes.
This is done with machining through layers and layers of carbon fibre that are sitting, as Libby said, opposed to each other. Then you get this beautiful layering.
And one assumes that no piece is the same, right? Every single piece is a unique piece.
It's like bespoke jewellery.
I know pretty much every component of this car has a story. Walk us through the badge. And because there was somewhat of a debate, wasn't there, with Adrian?
There was a debate around the badge. Obviously, our badges on our core cars are made traditionally, and they weigh around 300 grams, something like that, maybe 400 grams.
Okay.
There was a debate about 400 grams being too heavy for the car, and 400 grams I'm talking about, and also that badge, because it's 6 mil off the surface, may interfere with laminar flow over the front surface of the car. So Adrian and I had a debate about a badge, and he felt we didn't need it, and I said, this is an Aston Martin, it's going to carry a badge. So the compromise, and this car is about the least amount of compromise you could ever do to any product, was to have either a thin layer of stainless, which is gold plated, which is about 3 or 4, well, maybe a little bit more, 10 microns thick, or the same in titanium. So it's a badge that goes under the surface, under the lacquer, and actually when you run your finger over it, you can't feel the badge under the surface, but it has the authenticity of carrying our badge in a beautiful material. I suppose in terms of carrying through, as we were saying earlier, the sort of artisan side of things and still maintaining quality, that's why you didn't go for like a transfer or even something hand painted or anything like that. It's a beautiful material, laser cut, 100% accurate every time, so it's repeatable and it stands for our mark. One of the new software materials actually that we see here is the E-Grip Alcantara, and that's been electro welded with a pattern that helps kind of give stability and grip in the seat, so that's actually quite functional as well. What is this process? It's like contemporary witchcraft. What is that how you achieve that? That's how the kind of embossing is created. So yeah, it creates a texture in the Alcantara, and it's quite a deep foam as well, so it creates a texture and then it provides more grip in the seat to go around corners. And are you able to have any pattern in there, or do you have fixed? You could do, You could do. By a cue, I was hoping you were going to say no, it's fixed. Anything, you know, if you want to engrave something onto one of the seatbelt buckles. So when we've confirmed this spec, how long is it until it's set in stone? Because I've got a feeling the audience is going to go, what about this? Have you thought about that? Once we put the spec in the system, then you're probably looking at 3 months, aren't you? So 12 weeks to get these parts to come forward. So you may have a little bit of a window to change your mind. But the window shrinks very, very quickly. Right. Because obviously we've got to order and create those parts uniquely for your Because what I'm really passionate about is sharing as much as we can with these guys, and to be able to give sort of everyone really, even though we'll be here today setting the general theme of the car, to have feedback and audience feedback and go, how about this, how about that? In the past, when I've spec'd my own cars, the amount of Photoshop renders that come through the next day is ridiculous, and you're like, actually that does look quite cool. So maybe there's window for electro, what was it? Electro welding. Electro welding, who knows? If you've got any ideas for electro welding, guys, send them in. You're probably picking up on the fact that this video is really long, but this opportunity is absurd, and we're going to turn it into like this micro documentary about speccing this incredible car. We just got hold of a badge. I mean, well, there you are, sir.
There's your back. You're not joking. You really could blow that away.
You can't feel it.
And that sits under the lacquer of the car.
Yeah. So again, it doesn't interfere with the top surface of the car.
I mean, heaven forbid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We've been throwing the name of Adrian around pretty casually. For some context, for those of you guys who might not be familiar, Aston Martin teamed up with Aero F1 design genius Adrian Newey. I was just saying to Marek, are you documenting every component of this car? Because it sounds like every component has a story, and jokingly said even the screws. But it turns out there is a story about the screws.
The screws are bespoke to the car, so the fixings, nuts, bolts, screws are all bespoke.
Okay.
The thread size, thread depths, torque capability of those threads, and where they sit and how they fix are all uniquely designed for Valkyrie.
Individual screws.
Individual screws, nuts and bolts.
I don't know. Where do you start? You know, when you sit down and you approach something like this, how do you? I'm kind of getting a bit overwhelmed with all of these components. When you have a screw that has a story, how do you begin to? Do you have a screw designer dude? You're like, hey man, what we really need is a lightweight, torque capable.
Absolutely. So within the engineering team, there are fixing specialists. So obviously through F1, we've gained so much knowledge from the Red Bull Advanced Technologies teams in terms of fixings and lightweight structures.
Yeah.
And it's all come through F1. It's the same principle in a way, because an F1 car is exactly the same. Nuts, bolts, screws on an F1 car are individually designed for that car as well. And we carry that principle through because it's light in weight, structure is so important. The tub is the structure of the car, and the engine then gets mounted to the tub, and it's part of the rigidity of the whole package.
I get a little bit emotional, man. It's like it's so special. I'm serious. It blows my mind.
Another tiny example, and it is tiny. Every car that goes on the road must have a high-mounted stoplight, center high-mounted stoplight.
Yes.
This car carries the world's smallest high-mounted stoplight. It's about 7 millimeters tall by about 4 millimeters in width, and it's only 4 millimeters wide because it has to have an E mark that happens to be 3 millimeters wide on it. If we didn't have to have an E mark, we would have made it even slimmer.
Speaking of lights, it's the first time that I've seen. Are these the production lights?
These are the concept lights. The production lights are all 3D printed. So if we put the set of all 4 lights, the rear lights, the front lights together, they would be lighter than the lightest single light that exists in the market today on any car. And they're all 3D printed. It uses the checkerboard carbon for the can, and then 3D printed elements to create the structure and the lighting elements that go into the car as well.
So this I assume is the checkerboard carbon.
Yeah.
You can have that as the sort of interior.
So if you imagine the black zone here is all checkerboard carbon. And again, if you put all 4 lights into a bag and carried it home, you wouldn't feel it. You just wouldn't even know about it. Yeah.
Obviously, the overall theme of the car is dictated heavily by the colour, so we've just been talking about paints. Conveniently, when I move around to the back of the car, where I notice there's going to be a huge amount of heat here. So just run me through the area which actually can't be painted as a result of the heat.
Well, a lot of the areas around obviously the exhaust and the outlets for the exhaust are high temperature areas.
Okay.
So ambient temperature around the exhaust outlet is 1,000 degrees C.
Right.
And as that permeates out, you've got about 800 degrees C out here, which means we have to use a material called Zerkotech to cover that, which is heat resistant, obviously, to that temperature.
Okay.
But it also means that these carbon elements and the rear license plate have to be protected as well, because if you think about plastic and its melting point, it's way below 800 degrees C.
So how do you get around the license plate? It's not like melting.
Well, we've created a legal metal license plate, so we will have a metal license plate on the car. And obviously coatings that protect the carbon as well at that temperature.
So presumably, in terms of pushing the boundaries of what is legally allowed to wear a license plate, even the license plate itself has been pushed.
Yeah.
Because I mean, as far as I'm aware, in layman's terms, it's got to be a plastic, reflective.
Yellow reflective, yeah. And we've pushed every legal limit and asked the authorities if we can do this, a special exception, because of these reasons.
So it's pushed it and some.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's something you guys have announced or not yet, but there's this track pack.
Yeah.
We'll show you that in a minute. that blew my mind as well.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
Like this whole day, really. Reconfiguring my head a bit. All right, as unique as this car is, I think the driving position is up there with some of the most unique features. Now, if you've ever spent any time watching single-seater racing or formula racing, you'll know the first thing the driver does is actually stand on the seat and then slide himself in. And I think just the act of getting in this car is a massive nod to what it's all about, because you have to stand on the seat and get lowered in, so it's quite a unique experience. Jumping in a car like that. I mean, it really is. It's unreal. It really is like being in a single seater, and the great thing about it is you can take your mate along as well for the same experience. And just like a Formula One car, steering wheel is separate. So look at that.
Yeah, if you just clip that
There you are.
on there.
That's ridiculous. And it's even got that rectangle layout of a
Yeah.
Formula wheel.
Yeah,
Isn't that
and
awesome?
again, that's space efficiency. So obviously, you don't want to be encroaching into the cabin with a rounded
Sure.
section wheel, because there may be taller people sitting in the car where
Yeah.
the thighs are coming a little bit closer, and then from the upper rim perspective, it's for your down vision out of the car.
So in terms of having this layout, I mean, this is thoroughbred race car sort of seating
Yep.
position. How do you go about making it that it's still comfortable if someone, wants to go out sort of extended road trip or something?
A lot of the theory behind where you sit obviously comes, first of all, from performance. So you're actually sitting 2 degrees inboard as well, so that the passenger and yourself have your feet closer together than your hips.
Yes.
So you're pointing inboard.
Yep.
The column is then in line with you, but you don't really feel it until someone tells you. And that's to reduce
true,
the frontal
yeah.
area. You're then seated with your heels higher than your hip, your H
Yes.
point. And imagine that's for comfort.
Uh-huh.
So first of all, your seating position for performance is getting the front end narrower, getting your eye line in line with the steering wheel, etc. The distance from your elbow to the wheel is all about driving feel and performance. We then talk about comfort by raising your heels, and then that distributes the weight throughout your whole back. So from the top of your shoulders all the way
Yes.
through your spine to your backside
Yeah.
is supported, and even through to your thighs as well.
Yes.
You don't have the right seat lower in there, but typically the underside of your thighs would be supported. And you're fixed to the tub, and then the steering wheel and the pedals come towards you.
So there's tub option, and then there's seat option.
There's 3 options.
Three options?
Yeah, 3 options. In tub, I think 50 degrees and 42 degrees or something like that. So,
Okay.
so you, dependent on your eye position, and
Yeah.
you've got lots of space above you.
Yeah.
So we would sit you in the opposite seat, so
Right.
that your eye is a little bit higher, and
Sure.
you can look down through the car.
It's endless, man.
Yeah.
It's crackers.
Yeah. Most customers will come.
Yeah.
The first sitting is in here, and then we have a tub which is representative of the car, where you
Right.
do the actual fitting of the customer. And
But the actual pedal box also moves.
pedal box is maneuverable. Yeah,
It's full-on race car, isn't
yeah,
it?
it is.
And so inside then, I mean, I assume it's as customizable inside as it is outside.
Yeah, all of the elements that you see, the added pads, etc., the seat back, as we've just talked about, the seat cushion, the elements on the upper dash, the screen technologies, the steering wheel, all of the interface parts you can specify and change.
Wow.
What you can't change,
Yeah.
obviously, is the carbon twill, because that's part of the structure of the car.
And is aircon optional?
Aircon, no,
Aircon's standard.
they all have aircon.
They all have aircon. Wow. Fancy that. So, just an example of some of the features that I just don't understand on how they made this car. This is Okume Carbon. Now, obviously, on the outset, that looks like a very fluid formation of the car. What I don't understand is on the inside, how you've seen the formation of it. It's lots of different angles of carbon. It's really, look at that. How is, like, there's very distinct angles here. How does that become so smart? That's actually magic, man. Like, what have you guys been doing? Look at that. How do you do that?
And that's how you get the random pattern. Because
Right.
you're then, as you set that kind of fractal undersurface and you're layering the carbon, you're then machining through it. So you get these random end points to those carbon layers, which gives you the beautiful patterning and the striations, if you like, in the surface.
It's absurd.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, as Libby said, every single time you machine it is different.
It's a different one.
Yeah.
Okay, as far as daunting tasks go, this is it really. This is the moment we're going to spec a real Aston Martin Valkyrie. Never ever did I think those words would come out of my mouth, and yet here we are. So we're just going to point you guys at the screen as we are talking through these options. I'll just highlight that I've had the luck and fortune over the last few years of being able to configure quite a few cars. I've never seen a configurator like this. I've never seen anything so in depth with so many options. So just this screen itself gives you an idea of just how many variables there are.
It's quite daunting. And,
it really is.
Picking your Sunday outfit is simple compared to this, and obviously you're going to live with this for the whole life of the car. So it's critical that we explore all of those things and give the customer the opportunity to look at all the variations in colour, because once it's set in stone, it's set in stone. Obviously you can change it, but that's far more difficult to do, and you don't have the original specification of the car. So we can go through any colour variation, satin variation, graphics, the carbons, all the Mikune carbon, all the effects on the outside and on the inside through screen, and then we verify through virtual reality afterwards.
My wife and I are expecting a baby in about 10 days,
Yeah.
and I've had less problem coming up with a name for our child than I have the configuration with this car.
We can help you with the colour.
I might get you guys in. Okay, this is it. So in total, how many cars are you making?
150 road cars.
Road cars.
Road cars.
Okay, and then the additional AMR Pros on top of that.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so this is one of 150
Absolutely.
very significant road cars.
Yep.
Right. So
Yeah.
this is happening. My initial instinct is to go for a darker shade.
Okay.
However, I think it's good for both myself and the audience
Yep.
to see what the car looks like in something lighter.
Yep.
And then I guess if we're showing both extremes, we can have a feel of how
Yeah.
things
Absolutely,
might look. So
yeah. Here we've got a candy red, super liquid candy red, and it shows off the form fantastic. You can also see the lightweight magnesium wheels there, but we can flick between different wheel styles so that you can
Okay.
get a feeling for how the wheel styles suit the car.
So wow.
That's the disc
How-
wheel with a graphic, and this is the honeycomb style.
Okay, so you got 4 wheel options or 3?
Yep, 4 wheel options.
4
we've got a
wheel
disc,
options.
we've got a standard wheel, a lightweight wheel, and a designer wheel.
Okay.
So obviously the disc more for aero, the lightweight
Okay.
wheel which goes with the full lightweight pack that we talked about earlier
Yes.
as well.
Okay.
And they all have, they're very, very different in their visual appeal also.
Yeah.
And you know, if you go for a contrast colour like the red here versus the graphic language of the car,
Yes.
because you've got around 50% of the car in exposed carbon.
Wow.
So you're looking at the definitive graphic language of the car if you go with something like the red.
Okay.
But again, it's not just colour, we can go satin, we
Yeah.
can go gradated, we can go gloss on the carbon, satin on the carbon, different
Vice
twills
versa.
on the carbon as well. So
Different twills on the carbon as well. Oh.
yeah, we want to try and show you all of those
Yeah.
things.
Is it worth seeing the track pack?
Yeah,
On it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe we
Oh,
could
absolutely.
flick
Yeah.
to the track
For
pack
sure.
out.
That would be
Even if you get that as a separate bonnet
So
or
this
pack,
is
etc.
so you can retrofit this if you wanted to.
Some elements.
Some
yes,
elements.
Some
okay.
elements.
Which elements are
Like the
oh,
wheels,
okay.
bonnet, etc. That are separate items that are not kind of intrinsic within the whole makeup and build of the car.
Look at that.
So you see the front clam is
Yes.
totally different now. The side angle is really interesting. All the veins are really exaggerated.
So the car also sits
Sits
lower,
lower.
even lower.
Yeah.
It's low. Yeah.
Crikey.
So there's more exposed carbon now on
the
the side as
sculpture on
well.
those are ridiculous. Good God. Now, I mean, for context for the audience, obviously I'm not speccing this for me. This is a friend's car, it's a client's car. We have in the background, obviously, I'm not going to go and spec a pink car when he wants something else. So there is a guided theme. But outside of that, it's like, okay, let's go on that train of thought. Okay.
And as soon as your reaction to seeing track pack,
Yes.
because there is a lot, there's a different visual language to the bonnet, and
Yes.
as Libby said, to the outlets and inlets that give you more aero on the front clam and the rear clam.
Is the car any wider at all?
No, it's
No
not
wider.
in track pack form.
Okay. I guess it's just the way the graphics are outlaid on that
Yeah.
and gives it the feel of it.
Yeah.
And I guess when you drop a car as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stuart was flicking through the different ride
Yes.
heights before, and you can kind of see it.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's really cool, isn't it? Yeah.
The sculpture on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And see the big.
Oh, yeah, ride
you
height,
can see
the difference there.
Yeah, you see it dropping onto the tyre more,
Yes.
and obviously that's
Big
then
time.
the active suspension systems work much.
Dare I ask if there's such a thing as a nose lift on this, or is that against the
There
ethos?
there is a lifter on the
Lifter
road,
on it?
on the road car. Yeah.
On the Rose car,
Yeah.
but you can't get it on track pack. Was
No,
it
you would
air
struggle.
jacks?
Yeah, you would struggle to get the lifter to work with this track
Okay.
clam.
When we get the spec, maybe we
Yeah.
can speak with the owner and be like, how about, what do you think? Because I don't want to be that guy that's like, I find out he's got a 3-mile drive with 22 sleeping policemen down it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. There's always the option to get both
For sure.
track pack bonnet and
Yeah.
rear clam as well.
Okay,
So,
cool. Right.
If we go back to the red car,
Yeah.
what would be quite interesting to show you is how you can kind of change it graphically as well. If we put the red cant rail on, you can also paint some sections of the roof.
Okay.
The roof can be black painted. It's nice, I think, to expose the carbon on the roof,
Yeah.
but you can also accentuate certain lines on the roof and paint them red. So Stuart will show you that now.
So can you tint the roof carbon?
You can tint the roof carbon.
Right, so you could have that tinted red carbon,
We could.
like exposed
You could,
red
yeah,
carbon.
we could show you that now as well. So there's the cant rail in
Okay.
body colour.
That's nice.
Gives
it
a
really
different
nice flow
feeling,
as well.
yeah, different feeling to the car. You can also make the muffler area a different colour of Zerkitex ceramic coating.
okay, cool.
So you could pick silver, just to show you some of the
I
choices
mean,
here.
honestly, I've sat in front of some configurators. This is bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of the amount of things that you can change. Normally, it looks more like just that central column there, where you
Yes.
can go, "Hey, here's what it looks like in green." You know, here's what it looks like in
You're
blue.
actually working directly with the software here, and so you're changing a
Wow.
reflection on the surface, and you get a very real reading because we can then go into
Mm.
VR. And honestly, when you have the VR goggles on, you're
Yes.
literally looking around the real car.
Yeah.
It feels quite unique.
Yeah. So guys, stay tuned for the end of this, because we're going to look at the final configuration of the car in virtual reality. So if you want to have a laugh of me rolling around on the floor, stick until the end.
Have a look at what gradating the paint does as well.
Okay.
So you can
Yeah.
look at going, say, from a light paint at the front all the way to a darker variation at the back. As you said, the car is wild, so you might
Yes.
not need to do this, but when
Yeah.
you see it, it's
But
quite
that's
spectacular.
pretty amazing.
Yeah. And that's all done by hand painting, so there's no, it's not a film or a filter, it's
No.
literally hand painted to get
graded like that.
Yeah. So again, more of that, the artisan painting. The
No
car.
pressure, lads.
No
Crikey.
pressure whatsoever.
Yeah.
To get it even side to side as well.
Yes, of course. See, I really like the front half of that car.
Well, if we then start to look at the
Yeah.
darker blues, and I think, we've had that conversation about the depth of a blue, and,
Yes.
we have ultramarine, which is,
Yes.
as it sounds, it's imagine the ocean when you're not on the surface, but you're a kilometre down, and
Yeah.
that kind of almost black blueness that you would get in
Like
the ocean.
inky
Yeah.
black blue. Yeah, so that, for me personally, I mean, I think as well it's quite a classy shade of blue. That is absurdly cool. I love the fact it's like ultra stealth.
Yeah.
But equally, if you were to have it in some super bright sunlight,
And you start to see it under the light.
that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it would be very nice to team some kind of special details and a small accent colour with this,
Yes, it
just
would,
to bring
yeah.
the scheme to life. So whether you wanted to pick the gold-plated under lacquer badge,
Yeah,
and then team that with
stunning,
some
wouldn't it?
accents, perhaps on the wheels or on the interior jewellery, that would be beautiful.
Amazing. Not to jump the gun, but on the interior, in terms of stitching, can you have any shade of
We
stitching, or
have
do you
an
have
enormous array of
An origin-
stitching
yeah,
colours. We've
okay.
got about 30 or 40 colours.
Okay, of
So
stitch.
we have a lot, but we
Yeah.
can do something unique as well. Which wheels did you have a preference
So
for?
I like the honeycomb
Yeah.
wheels. Really is.
And
they're
that
really
gives
cool.
you an opportunity to diamond turn the front face and add an accent colour. So you could pick out that kind of bronzy colour from the
Yes.
wings badge onto the front
That would
face
be
of
it,
the
yeah.
wheel.
Yeah, and I think then if Stuart just zooms back into the front,
Yes.
if you look at the detailing on the headlamp
Yeah.
and then the badge, because you get a lot of these
yeah,
warm
I
elements
see.
in, because of the 3D printing and the materials that we've had to use in there.
Wow.
So that's
Ties in with
that's
the
a,
badge.
yeah, that's a natural. That we can't
So
change.
that
the
is that.
inter-
That's
yeah.
how that
You
is.
can't change the
That's
internals
convenient,
of the
isn't it?
lamp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Oh
start to see
yeah,
the diamond turn.
that's the. Oh wow, I love how you when you move it, it kind of comes in and
Yeah,
out
'cause
of
it's
show.
very, very fine.
Is it?
And yeah, it's again, nothing that we've done so
Mm.
far is overt. It's
Mm-hmm.
quite subtle, but on a bright sunny day, that's
Yes.
really going to be picked out.
Let's jump ahead then and tint that roof.
Okay.
Let's make that a sort of
And are you
a
gonna
similar
do the
navy.
roof-
Yes.
Roof strakes in the blue, or Yeah.
I would recommend, if he likes the blue tinted roof, to
everything?
expose the carbon and kind of celebrate that
Yeah.
element.
The upper half of the car feels very LMP1-esque.
Yeah.
You know, it's that shape, isn't it?
It is. Again, it's about reducing as much of the frontal area,
Mm.
minimising that sectional detail, so that you've got, something that's slipping through the air as smoothly as possible.
So I think the main choice for the interior is whether or not you want to have more of the environment trimmed, or you want to go with this kind of ultralight trim story where we remove the trim from the side of the tub and the A-pillars and into the roof, so we can either have that all carbon or we can have that trimmed. So I think that's the first big step on the interior.
Okay.
So you start to see those grey areas where
Yeah.
you sat in the tub earlier,
Yes.
and it was all exposed carbon.
Yeah.
Here we've added the trim to that surface, so and
Okay.
it's got the acoustic sound deadening on it. But all it is. It's a layer of
Oh,
the
yeah,
Alcantara onto the tub.
I like the exposed tub.
You like the
The
exposed
exposed tub is, yeah. So you guys mentioned that you're actually going to be providing some driving shoes with this.
Yes.
With this car.
Yeah.
The idea behind that, obviously, not only are they sort of optimized shoes, but because you're going to step in, you're going to step on the seat.
You are. Yes.
So actually, like sitting in there, as nice as it was earlier, is actually quite interesting because you do step on your actual
You
seat.
do, yeah.
So would it be advisable, driving shoes aside, because not everyone is always that practical? Is it advisable to have something darker, just in case, or?
It's more practical.
It's more
Yeah.
practical.
Depends how you're
Yeah.
using the car. If you're using the car a lot,
Well, what
it's
I really
definitely
loved
more
earlier
practical.
was the navy Alcantara. That
Yeah.
like deep
Yeah.
navy
Yeah.
Alcantara was gorgeous.
yeah, Dark Knight.
Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
works
if that
perfectly
works,
with this spec.
Yeah.
particularly with the outside having those
Yeah.
navy vibe to it,
Yeah.
that would be great.
And the Dark Knight working with the ultramarine is
Yes.
very, very beautiful combination.
And then I guess a contrasting stitch, which for me has to match with something on the outside of the car,
So the
like the
bronze
gold or
colour?
the bronze.
Yeah.
Or, yeah,
Coming in.
would be really nice.
Steering wheel with the anodized jewellery.
So those things which are gold, we could have
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
bronzed.
Yeah, those toggles. So they come in aluminium or titanium. You can have a polished titanium set if you wish.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Links also to a polished exterior wings badge in titanium if you pick that. They're
I see,
nice
okay.
pair to go together. But seeing as you've
I quite like the
chosen
idea of
bronze
having
details.
it bronzed with
Yeah.
the stitch.
Yeah.
And then, that's where you can start to look at the application of Makume as well. On the steering
On the wheel.
Yeah, on the wheel lower and other areas. that
So
are
in the
touchable.
middle where it's currently more conventional carbon there,
Yeah.
you can have
Makume.
Makume.
Yeah, the Makume goes in a few locations.
Yeah.
In the centre of the steering wheel,
That's nice.
around the vent in the IP, and around the switch pack in between the seats. And on the exterior, goes into the clam vanes and it replaces the checkerboard carbon in the headlamp scoops.
Does it?
So you get a kind of
Really?
exterior and interior combination coming together when you pick that pack.
I don't know the cost of this, my mate's going to be annoyed, but we should go for that. Tick that box.
That's what I would do.
Tick that box for sure. That sounds
Suits
amazing.
the spec.
Particularly on the outside, I'd love to see that.
It's
Amazing.
really nice.
Oh wow, look at that. That's absurdly
Yeah.
cool.
There you
Look
go.
at that.
We also have quite a broad range of harness colours.
Do you do anything that would complement? I don't suppose you could have it a similar bronze, can you?
We can
you?
do a queue request to make any bespoke colour for harnesses. Yeah, the harness is a really good way to kind of accent
Just
the
add a bit of
interior
something
and
in
bring
there.
some detail.
It ties it well with the wheels, and that's beginning to look something special. I think we'll move on to the VR now, because I don't want to give these guys too much away, because we want to unveil some of the special stuff when the car actually arrives.
Okay.
But in terms of an understanding of the process that you can go through, it's incredible. Huh? Really is. Okay. As the last stage of the ultimate client experience, you get to look at your car in virtual reality. So we're going to put this headset on, and hopefully we'll be able to show you what I'm seeing on that screen. So fire away.
Please.
Okay.
Put that on.
So that's really just happened. We've built the spec that now I will now liaise with my friend and be like, hey, what do you think about this? We'll talk about it some more. As I mentioned in there, we still have some time to make some tweaks and changes to the spec. We also haven't shown you everything. We spent some more time in there specking some other surprises, but that's really happening. That car will be built as a real car, which is absolutely absurd. So gonna go away, speak with friends, talk about it, make sure everything's cool, and then the next time you see the second installation on this series will be almost as exclusive. The next stage, it'll be a world first and monumentally cool. So I'm going to take that opportunity to sign off. As always, guys, thanks for watching. I'm still processing what just happened. I'll see you next time. Ciao.